The following podcast is a mass media production.
Hi, I'm Josh Galindo.
And I'm Krystal Galindo. Welcome to the Going Galindo Rugrats and Renovations podcast.
A lifestyle podcast where we will offer our experience and expertise in building real, lasting wealth through renovating and flipping homes.
And the chaos that comes with balancing a family of 6, leaving nothing unsaid.
Follow our wild ride we call life and apply our lessons to your own journey. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good too. Guess what Krystal did for us today?
What did I do?
She saved us $32,000 in taxes. We got our tax bill and I was like, whoa. We're going to have to find a way to get this down. And so we recently changed our tax preparer, CPA, and something that I think is important to probably communicate to the audience is it's important to make sure that your tax guy, this is something I just learned from this transition, knows about you.
Right, knows your business, yeah.
But even on a personal level, has to know about you on a personal level, because they can't do anything if they don't know. They can only do what they know about you.
Right, they can't make any suggestions of
they didn't even know we had 4 kids that they knew, but they didn't know.
Right.
We had to educate them on all of our businesses, on different things so that they can better serve us.
Right.
So I think that's something that's really valuable. If you ever go to switch CPAs, which a lot of us, here's the thing too, is a lot of us start with like our CPA when we were a busser at a restaurant.
Right.
When we were 18. And it's easy to roll into using them when you're 19 and 20 and 21. And eventually for us, what ended up happening is we just felt our business had grown to a point where we needed somebody to take us to the next level, which takes me to a really good point that my mom taught me. The people that got you to where you are not necessarily the same people that are going to get you to where you want to be. And I always thought that was a really good saying. So I thought I'd share that with everybody.
I want to call out one of our sponsors, Battle-Born Injury Lawyers. I love that they are based here in Las Vegas. They aren't your average firm. They personally put in the work to protect your rights. After meeting Matt, I put his number in my phone because you never know when that will happen. I recommend you do the same. It's 702-570-9000. You can also check them out at battleborninjurylawyers.com.
So today I am going to do my best to fulfill my commitment to educating all of the people on how on some of the rules that I've used in my journey to build wealth, and what I feel today on a personal level, sustaining wealth. I'm a big believer in mindset over just simple mechanics, because I think if somebody simply wanted to go and research how to build wealth and create sustainable wealth, the formula is all over the internet. It's all over the internet. There's step-by-step instructions. You could probably buy 50 books on how to go and do this. Where I think not all of these, but a lot of the books lack or neglect is encouraging a transformation of mindset. You have to have the right mindset. You have to have the right mindset.
Right.
You can, you got it. You can read on how to box. Obviously, you got to duck when you're getting swung at. You got to have good cardio. You got to have this. But the reality is you got to have a really badass mindset to be able to sit there and have someone punch you in the face and you not give up or bow out and fight back. Like, that's mindset.
Yeah.
So I'm a big believer in mindset.
Yeah, and you have to change your mindset in order to have things happen, because if you don't change it, you're going to keep producing the same outcome.
Absolutely. I'm just going to tap on something really quick. People function in their comfort zones. This is unfortunate, but it is what it is. If you were raised in a space of lack or less than, it is likely that space has become your comfort zone. Furthermore, it's even more likely that you will reproduce that same space because that is where you're comfortable. So to pull a person out of that space and say, hey, I want you to go and live in abundance, it's actually very uncomfortable. So when people understand that, that's called mindset. That's why a lot of the people that have huge desires to be wealthy, probably come from poverty or never had it. And there's people that are obviously wealthy that want to continue to build on that wealth. But, and it actually applies to both demographics, if you think about it, because there's wealthy and then there's like extreme wealthy. Well, that person's perception of extreme wealthy would be uncomfortable. So it's difficult for him to go from just being wealthy to being extremely wealthy. He has to also shift his mindset. The same thing applies for poverty. If you're going from poverty to just wealthy, there's a mindset shift that has to take place.
No, and I agree. And I was actually listening to something a little while back, and it was saying that, you have to change anything in your life, you have to change your mindset, because your brain, it takes a lot of energy. So anything that your brain can put on autopilot, it does. So you stay comfortable doing what you're doing, and your brain doesn't want to really change it, because then it uses energy for other things. But if it gets you out of your comfort zone, it takes more energy for your brain to get out of it. And that's why it's hard to change your mindset.
And that's why it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. Do you want to tap on that at all from a personal experience in our relationship? I think that's pretty valuable.
You mean how I've always been uncomfortable?
I think it's worth noting.
Well, I would say that when growing up, my parents didn't ever every car was paid for cash. They didn't have payments on cars. Their house payment was very minimal, but that was like the biggest payment they had. They didn't want to buy something that, and have to I don't know how to describe it, but they didn't want to have to increase their wealth to pay for something they already bought. They bought it once they had it. They didn't make payments afterwards. So anything for me, I didn't want it to be like when I bought my first house, the mortgage was $900 a month. I was like, okay, this is easy. I can do this. It wasn't, $2,000 where I had to work more to pay for it. So I never was comfortable spending more money than what I don't know. I don't know how to describe that. But I remember when we lived in mezzanine.
There you go.
In Mountain's Edge, I was good with that house. It was comfortable for me. It was going to work for our family. It was great. You didn't want to stay there. You wanted to move to Summerlin, which for me I thought was way too far, which in reality it's 5 minutes further than Mountain's Edge. But you found a house that you wanted to buy, and you bring me to it, and you're talking about how it was such a good deal and it's going to be so good for us because we're buying it. It's a good buy. And I was like, well, let me bring my parents. And my parents were like, this is a really expensive house, and, you should be careful. And I remember you're like, okay, I understand all that, but if it's too expensive, I'll just make more money to pay for it.
There you go.
And I'm like,
Do you remember hearing that?
Yeah, and I don't know how to process that because, I was a server. I only made so much in tips a night. It's how do you just make more money to pay for it? It's this is how much money I make. I don't, so for me, it was hard to understand that. And I remember you were like, no, this is a good decision. We're going to move. And I remember going to work and I was broken out in hives because I was so anxious and uncomfortable and nervous about it. I'm like, what if this is bad for us? What if we can't afford it? All that stuff. You're like, I will just make more. I will figure it out. I'm like, okay. And then you did. So I think for me, that was my learning of I just need to support you and whatever you're wanting to do, because you'll make it happen if I am supportive. I can't.
And that, I think, goes to the beautiful formula that we have, is as long as I feel supported, loved, and am provided all the things that I feel I need, I could stay focused on pushing us through each barrier in our lives. So I want to tap on that. So I think there's a few things that I want to go into there. One, you said, I'm a server. How do I make more money? I'm just a server.
Right.
What I make is what I make. So for me, it's not what you do. One.
Right.
It's what you do with the money. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing that I want to touch on. And the second thing is that statement exactly is the mindset I'm referring to.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
I know.
It's okay. This is a beautiful thing because
yeah.
it's a real life example. And trust me when I tell you, 99% of the people listening will relate with you more than me.
Yes.
But the point of this podcast is to hopefully break through that barrier. But even if you're a server, the cap mindset, I don't care that. I don't even care what the position is. It's the capped mindset that keeps people capped.
Yeah.
Me, when I was a server at Azure, at the day club at the pool, when mid-recession, not a server, I was a pool host. Okay, we'll go back to Mirage, for example. That's a more clean and clear example. So in my early job days, I worked at the Mirage pool. Everybody told me they made $100 a day. That's all you can make, $100 a day. I was like, well, shit, that's pretty good for an 18-year-old. But I was like, I bet there's a way you can make more money. I said, and so I was new, so they put me on the back half of the schedule. So I came in at like 3 until 7, I think it was, or whatever it was. And my job was to pick up towels because the action of the day had already passed.
Right.
So my job was to pick up towels. So I was like, I'm going to be the best towel picker-upper ever because I want that 6 to 2 shift. So I went in there and I busted my ass. I was making $20 in tips, nothing. $9 an hour, whatever it was, sweating my ass off at the hottest point of the day. And I was like, I want that 6 to 2 shift. I want that 6 to 2 shift. So I showed that I was the hardest, baddest worker. I smoked everybody. I was smoking the guy that came in at 6 to 2. I walk in, guy goes, you got the 6 to 2 shift. I'm like, fuck yeah. I got the 6 to 2 shift. Now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go at 5. And I'm going to get to the pool before it even opens. And if there's 800 chairs on the deck, I'm going to take 350 of them and put them in the back. It created demand. The second the guests walked in, the first 300 guests filled those chairs. The next 500 guests
needed
me to go get them chairs. I was selling chairs for $20 a chair. I'd put 7 chairs on my head and walk them out and get a tip because I was sweating my brains out. And anyway, the best day I ever had there, $386. That was the day I realized I can make any amount of money in anything that I do. I broke it down to I was selling rafts. I was selling cold towels. I would roll up towels and put them in ice buckets in the back. And if my guests were like, oh my God, I get to see that they were hot, I'd roll up and I'd bring them a freezing cold towel. Another $5. Boom, boom, boom. All right, guys, let me make sure I give myself a really quick plug here. I just want to take a moment and make sure I'm crystal clear on what Galindo Group Real Estate offers to the Las Vegas public. We have a company called Galindo Buys Houses that buys homes as is, all cash, and can close in as little as 7 days with no appraisals, no commissions, and we pay all of the fees associated with the closing. So the number we give you is the number you should walk away with from the closing table. You pick your close date, and if you need to, you can stay up to 3 weeks after closing, giving you a home and the much-needed cash to make future decisions. Galindo Buys Houses is a locally owned company that takes the profits generated here in town and reinvests them locally. We're not that big hedge fund that takes the profits generated here and sends them off to New York and other big cities. I employ people here locally and invest here locally. If you or anyone you know is behind on payments, repairs, or inherited a tenant disaster, don't hesitate to give me a call. We will get you an offer in 5 minutes or less and close in 7 days or less. So please take this number down. It's easy, 820-CASH. Again, it's 702-820-CASH. Talk to you soon. So the other thing that I think is important to communicate is I remember going to my mom and going, Mom, they moved me to 6 to 2. Mm-hmm. And I went to my manager and I said, I am so thankful. Thank you so much. You've done so much for me. I appreciate you so much. I wanted to make sure he knew how thankful I was to him and how much in debt I was to him. Now, while my mom is a big proponent of being able to communicate gratitude, which I think is a huge character trait that is really important in life, mm-hmm. Please listen and note that if that is, I want to make sure you don't miss that point. The ability to communicate gratitude is huge. But my mom says to me, I don't want to hear you give that manager credit one more time for getting you that shift. I want you to take that credit. You woke up. You got up there early. You worked hard. You earned that space. Don't give that fucking manager any more credit. And so with my wins and my successes, while I'm extremely grateful for the resources and people around me that have helped me get to where I'm at, I know I am responsible for my success. And when I own that and I give myself credit, what does it do, baby? What does it do for my mind?
It reconfirms.
It reconfirms.
Builds your confidence.
Builds my confidence.
Yeah.
Which prepares me for the next battle/challenge that I'm going to endure. Because I own my successes. And I express gratitude for the people and resources around me that have helped me get there. But I own the shit out of them. Okay. Mindset. I hope that was of value.
Yeah,
If it wasn't,
I think
then,
it is.
Then stop, rewind, and play again.
So thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure, sweetie.
I think that
a little
maybe
bit intense, but I think it was
it's a little
good.
intense,
It's all
but
good.
I think that maybe for the listeners, it would be helpful if you could share some of your tips and rules that you live by. Just because I've learned it a lot from you. So
well, thank you. So the first thing is what I will say is that I'm not formally educated. I didn't make it out of high school. I don't have a high school diploma. I don't encourage that for anybody. There's much easier ways to become successful than just not being scholastically educated. But because of the path that I took, it forced me to learn what I learned today. So the first thing is I never had a lot of confidence. Today it's different, but I didn't have a lot of confidence in my ability to earn because society told me that if I'm not scholastically educated, I'll never be an earner.
right.
So I knew the way around that was to be a freak saver. If I'm not going to be able to earn a lot, then I'm going to save what I do earn. And so that was I'm going way back, like 18 years old here. I remember I had a lot of confidence and self-esteem around knowing how much money I had in the bank. And
I would agree. I was a saver too. So same for me. Like when you're saving a lot, you think about what you're saving. It's an empowering feeling knowing that, hey, you know what? This guy's been a real asshole to me the last 3 times I came in. I got $25,000 in the bank. I'm 18. My bills are $2,500 a month. I got 10 months of living expenses. I can tell this guy to go fuck himself. That's an empowering position. Yeah.
And when you tell him to go fuck yourself, the universe just opens up 10 other doors for you to go and entertain. And likely they're going to be in your benefit or better, at your benefit and better than where you were. So I was always a freak saver. Literally, there was times when I lived close to a gas station. And I would go and take the toilet paper rolls from the gas station bathroom because I didn't want to buy toilet paper. Or you opened up my fridge and there was napkins from a gas station and ketchup deals and hot sauce and then there was I shopped at the dollar store, and the way that I would often shop is I would say, what is my budget today? I lived my life very disciplined and by budgets. So I knew if I had $300 a month and what I could spend money on, and that meant that I could spend $65 on each grocery trip or whatever it was, I would literally start with my calculator. I'd walk to the store, and everything that I grabbed off the shelf and put in the cart, I would tally. And when I hit $65, I'd turn around and go to the cashier and walk out. That was it. That's the level of discipline that you have to have. And when you do that, it trains your mind to be very, 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 take money very seriously. There's no accidents. There's big, big earners out there. Big, big, big earners. And they don't have a dollar to their name. They don't have a dollar to their name. If they got blown on, they'd tip over and go BK. Because they don't know how to save.
Right.
Because they never had to develop that muscle because they were such spectacular earners. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why doctors are great doctors, but they're as dumb as a box of rocks when it comes to financial
Right.
decisions.
Because they just have the same amount coming in every month, so they know what they can spend.
Yeah, and they never had to develop that muscle on how to continue to build wealth. This is all mindset. That's what I'm saying. Okay, you have to learn how to save. If you're the first formula is learn to save, then go learn to make money. Then you blend those two things, and boy, you've got a beautiful formula.
Yeah.
So the very first things that I learned to do when I was young was I was a freak saver.
I mean, you were still that way when I met you.
Yeah, I remember. Like I literally, this is the level of saving that I would do. If I would work a really hard day at the Mirage Pool, I had a choice. I could go home and drink water for free, or I could stop at the gas station and buy myself a Powerade for $1.98, and I'd get 2 for $4 if I did that. It was legitimately a treat for me in my mind to stop and buy 2 Powerades for $4 because I would often go home and say, no, I'd rather save the money. And I think it's so important to stay absolutely laser focused on your goal. Thinking back to that time, which that gas station and that moment about Powerade just triggered in my mind, what I forgot to remember is I wanted to own my own home. So I obviously need a down payment. Well, I wanted to own it quickly. I didn't want to create a goal in 2 years I'm going to have a down payment. No, like I wanted to own a house in like the next 6 months. So when I say freak saving, I was sharing a 1-bedroom apartment with 2 Italian immigrants and myself. And me and my good friend Dino, that's the agent.
Yeah.
Lino, we actually shared the master bedroom. And the master bedroom was so small that there was enough room to open the door. And after that, we actually had to walk on each other's beds because that was all of the room that was there. And I was paying like $265 a month. And I lived in that little space, which you got to think 3 guys, my girlfriend and me, and Lino's over there with his side piece, and the guy in the living room with his 2 buddies, and food and family. And I mean, I was living in a circus, but I was paying $260 a month, and I was staying focused on my ability to save enough money to buy that house. And when I bought that house, I was so fucking proud of myself. I had Lino and all of his family over to my house, and they were all proud of me too, and it was really great. But so staying focused on the goal and sacrificing all of life's luxuries to obtain that goal. So be cheap. Be cheap. I'm cheap to this day. People don't realize that I'm cheap because they don't realize what I'm making. So what I'm spending looks like I'm living in extreme abundance or maybe over my means. Trust me, the cheap mentality has never left my body. If I'm making this much, I'm spending this much. Yeah. It doesn't go any other way.
All right, guys, I want to tell you about Nick Marietta one more time. The guy does everything. He owns a construction company, a wholesale business, and a flipping business. He's done more than $75 million in construction renovations. What's great about Nick is that there's no job too big or too small for him. From the front curb to the back wall, he can literally help you out with everything. And take it from me, Nick is your guy if you need help with a complete flip or a small renovation. You can get in touch with Nick at 480-235-8148 or find him on Instagram or Facebook at The Real Nick Marietta.
So be cheap, save. My other rule is always get 3 bids for everything. Everything. If you're truly practicing being cheap, you will get 3 bids for everything. Even if the first bid you got is the cheapest bid, you will know it is the cheapest bid because you got 2 other bids, which taught you the market on the service or vendor that you're looking to get. Always get 3 bids. No BS debt. I'm trying to go back to people that are listening that aren't me just giving information on how to go and be a house flipper. A lot of these people probably aren't at that place yet. Right. They will be, and I hope they can be. I'm trying to talk to Josh at 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. That's where the value is for these people. If you know how to flip 125 homes a year and you've got 30 rental properties, this is entertainment. This is an education. I really want to stay in the nitty gritty. So the other few rules that I remember learning is never convert short-term debt to long-term debt. Think about that.
Can you explain that better?
Never convert short-term debt to long-term debt. So there was a big boom that I remember I almost jumped into, and thankfully the loan officer tried to take me for a ride, or I would have signed the loan docs. But there was a big moment when interest rates go really low, and then you have a bunch of equity in your house, and then you went out and bought a bunch of bullshit toys with short-term debt, boats, cars, jet skis, credit card debt. All of that is short-term debt. The second that you use the equity in your home to soften the pain of that short-term debt and convert it to 30-year debt, think about that. The asset's going to die in 5 years. Boat's worthless after 5 years. That car is worthless after 5 years. You've now converted that it's not even an asset, that item to being paid over 30 years. No BS debt, and never convert short-term debt to long-term debt. I remember it's very easy to jump into that cycle. Pay off your car. Your payment will go up $500 on your house. That's bad thinking. Don't do that.
So if you were to pull the equity out of your house, what should you buy with it instead?
There you go. Don't go pay off some fucking depreciating assets. Go buy appreciating assets. If you're going to pull money out of your house, you go and buy a cash flowing asset.
Something that's going to make you money.
That will make you money or appreciate. It is the worst financial advice. I can't even stomach that there's lenders out there going, let's just roll all of your credit card debt. And what they're really doing is giving you a get out of free jail card. No. You need to endure the pain that you've created so that you don't do it again.
Right. You shouldn't be spending money before you make it like that anyway.
And now you just cover it all up with taking the equity out of your most valuable asset and paying off all crap shit, old, dumb, useless debt. Assets. They're all depreciating assets, and you just paid them all off. Crazy. I could beat that horse really bad. Okay. Always feel broke. Never think that you've made it. And I learned this from a really, really, really powerful person in my life. His name is Ronaldo Taberti. I give the guy all the credit in the world for a lot of my success and a lot of the very powerful things that he's taught me. He told me that the ego's healthy, but the second that the ego thinks that it's rich, it has never, ever served him well. That's all I can remember in my mind from hearing him say this. I'm going to word it into how I use it. Anytime ever in my life, I don't even do it anymore. And that's what you give me a lot of flack for because I don't celebrate my wins. But anytime in my past, in my career, in my previous life or my current life, but in the past, I've gotten excited, cocky, overconfident, felt like I'd fucking made it. The universe puts my teeth on the curb and slams the back of my head. And blows my teeth out of my head. Yeah. It kicks my ass every time.
It gives you a humble check.
Gives me a humble check. So I love just staying in a place of abundance, I'm doing well, and gratitude. The second you wake up and go, I don't have to work anymore, I've made it, I'm rich, and let me tell the whole world about it, the universe has always kicked my ass. So if it doesn't kick your ass, then good for you, but it did for me. Other thing, always attach your income to commission or production. You will never, ever be able to exchange enough hours, physical hours, in exchange for capped hourly rate to become successful. Capped. You don't have enough man hours. You can't work on a physical level. The human body can't work enough to become wealthy. You have to be attached to either commission or production, period. Okay. I'm rounding a lot of goods off here. Never leverage yourself into unsustainability. Whatever leverage that you take on should not be attached to your income only. Any debt that you take on should not be attached to your income only. Ask me why.
Yeah, I'm like trying to figure that out. What do you
just say? Why?
Why?
Because what if you get fired? Simple. That's why. What if there's an economic collapse? I learned this.
Right. No, I know.
I built a big leveraged portfolio, and then 2008 hit, and that was it. I lost it all. I was down to negative $116 in my B of A bank account, sitting next to you on the couch, seeing the red text as I logged into my account. So never leverage yourself into unsustainability. And so the type of what I would encourage, and it's not easy, but what I would encourage, and it requires being cheap, it requires saving, it requires practicing the fundamentals of getting 3 bids, learning your market, all of those things, is when you save enough money, you can buy cash flowing assets. When you buy cash flowing assets, those pay for any long-term debt that you want to incur. So if you want a car payment for $1,000 a month, that pretty much allows you to drive any vehicle you want in society. Just buy $100,000 house and earn 10% on your money. That'll generate $1,000 a month. You don't have to get out of bed to have your car payment made. You may miss a month. You may miss 2 months. The rent may go down from $1,000 to $900. But generally speaking, your car payment is made for the rest of your life if you save $100,000. Save $100,000 one time, and for the next 50 years of your life, your car payment's made.
Yeah.
How cool is that? Okay. You want to live in $1 million house? What's the payment? Let's call it $4,000 a month. Rough math.
Yeah.
You got to save $400,000. Sounds like a lot, but if you're a freak saver and you're cheap, you can get there. If you buy 4 rentals and earn 10% on your money, you can live in $1 million house for the rest of your life and never have to worry about how you're going to make the payment. So never leverage yourself into unsustainability. You get that?
Yeah.
What the other thing does is when you buy these cash flowing assets that pay for your hard debt costs, your living expenses, all of the income that you make goes towards buying more of those assets. Now, your income no longer goes towards paying your monthly debt, your monthly dues, your monthly whatever, your monthly nut. It just goes in the bank and stacks and stacks and stacks. Then boom, you got enough to go buy another rental because all your bills are paid for.
Right.
It's almost like you're living for zero. And I'm explaining my exact formula.
Yeah. No, I remember.
Like to the T.
Yeah, that's what.
No, I mean, you know this better than anybody. Our bills are less than what our rentals bring in every month. That means every flip, every retail deal, every dollar outside of my rentals is 100% savings.
To go buy another rental. And people wonder, how do you buy all these rentals cash? I could look at them and go, I don't have any bills. So everything I go to work and make, I get to save. And now it's only growing. It's compounding and compounding. You know, saving $100,000, like, okay, that's a big nut, and that's overwhelming. If you tell someone, okay, if you save $20,000 and you put it down to go buy a $100,000 house, then you're making $800 after your payment or whatever, something like.
Beautifully asked. and no, and I mean that. Thank you. Because a lot of that is now I've just built the mindset. And again, I think this specific episode should probably be listened to a few times.
Yeah.
So what I did is I laid the groundwork to get your mind right. Now we got to lay out the path.
Right.
So it's like put your right foot in front of your left.
Yeah, because they need.
And then eventually you'll end up in New York.
Can take and go and do.
I love that. Great question. Thank you for asking it. Okay, so first things first. I think it's really important. If you live here in Las Vegas, you have to understand that the big, beautiful city center on the Strip, right? 75 acres. I think it was $8.9 billion. I think they probably got 4 towers on that place. It's a mammoth project. It literally started with like the water mixed with the concrete to build the foundation.
Right.
And my point is that building started with simply water and concrete to build the foundation.
Right.
And then each floor, the steel used was a combination of whatever the hell they make steel out of. And then it was put together piece by piece by piece by piece by piece by screw by screw by piece of glass by outlet cover by carpet by bed by pillow. Think about that. And then you look back and you go, holy cow, it's an $8.9 billion building. Well, when I say save $100,000, of course that sounds intimidating and probably not even, realistic.
I think it's overwhelming.
It absolutely has to start just like I just described the city center. If you have an opportunity to save $100, but you break all of your goals down, that's why you have to have long-term goals, mid-long-term goals, annual goals, 6-month goals, 3-month goals. You know what I'm saying? All the way down to daily goals.
If you just say, "Oh, I want to make $1 million," it's like
It's the worst statement you could ever make.
Right,
because that is so bad.
You need to say that you're going to make $50,000 so that when you hit $50,000, you reconfirm your belief. You build the confidence to now reach your next goal. But if you never reach your goal, I mean...
You're spot on. I want to say something here. I don't want to confuse the audience or misrepresent. What I'm describing took 15 years to build.
Yeah.
I didn't build this in 2 months or 6 months or a year. It took 15 years of my life.
I also think you learned a lot as you went, too.
Absolutely.
You didn't know it 15 years ago.
Like I said in the other podcast, the best thing that can happen is you fail. Mm-hmm. You learn the most. If everything was a win, you don't learn shit. You got to fail to learn. So it took a long time. I don't want, these get rich quick things. If you watch my YouTube video or buy my book or buy my course or all this bullshit, it doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't work. Otherwise, there'd be billionaires everywhere. Think about that.
Yeah.
There's courses being bought all the time. So here's how you got to do it: is set small goals. I want to save $5,000. Well, what does saving $5,000 look like? You have to save $500 10 times, right? How do you save $500? Well, if you make $1,000 a week, you have to figure out how to get your life and your expenses to only cost $500 a week. Mm-hmm. That would mean you could save $500 of your $1,000 worth of income. $500 goes to expenses, $500 goes to saving. You do that 10 times, you have $5,000. Mm-hmm. Okay? Well, now you think, how do I get to 10,000? Well, if I reduce my debt load, or if I reduce some costs or some expenses and bring in a roommate, or if I you got to be constantly creatively thinking. So you say, how can I save an extra $100? You have to break this down to nothing. Mm-hmm. I need to save $600 a week now so that I can, and I do that for 10 times in a row. I save $6,000. I got $11,000. What people don't realize is that everything you do is likely a waste of money. If you think about that.
Yeah.
Because the basic needs in life are like gas to get your car around. I can name them right here. Car insurance, a car payment, food, and living. Mm-hmm. So you need like 5 things to live. So everything else that you spend money on is an absolute waste. And unless you have the means, then you shouldn't be spending money on it. Or the instant gratification you get from spending that money that you don't have is more desirable than the feeling you're going to get when you accomplish your goal. So you just have to make a choice. What's going to be more fulfilling and exciting? Showing up and knowing I accomplished that goal in exchange for all of the sacrifice, or constantly cheating myself out of the big win in exchange for all the small wins because it was more gratifying in the moment? That's the mindset. That's why people don't save. They find it more enticing to booze Sunday night while watching football, to booze Monday night while watching football, to booze Thursday night while watching football. That means they get one good working day a week when football's in town. How the hell are you going to find your goals if you show up to work hungover 4 days out of the week?
Right.
It was more gratifying in that moment
to spend that money
than it would have been to accomplish your bigger goal, to sacrifice those small wins in exchange for the bigger goal. So what do you do first? Okay, you have to identify the amount of money that you want to save, and then you break it down into 10, always into 10. If I want to save $100,000, break that into 10. Now I got to save $10,000. Break that into 10. That is $1,000 10 times. Break that into 10. That means I got to save $100 10 times. That's pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
Do you see how that formula can happen? Krystal, I need you to find an opportunity to save $100 10 times in the next 2 months.
I could do that.
Do you think you could do that? In 2 months. That's 8 weeks. You need to find an opportunity to save $100 10 times in the next 2 months. What would you have at the end of 2 months?
You have
an extra $1,000.
Yeah.
Okay. If you do that consistently for a year, how much money would you have?
$6,000.
$6,000. Okay. So now what's probably going to happen is you're going to be like, saving $100 is easy. I want to save $200. Okay. So you guys are getting the point there. Whatever your big goal is, break it down.
To make it more realistic.
Okay. The other thing is educate yourself. money is useless in the bank. It's actually depreciating if you leave it in the bank. Assets increase, money in the bank decreases. When you have inflation, your money's decreasing. Assets grow with inflation and generally grow more aggressively.
More, yeah.
So it's important to get educated, okay? So you have to find different opportunities to park your money. You have to find different opportunities to park your money. Be researching stocks. Be researching. Don't gamble. There's gambling. We're like, I'm just going to go buy this and see if it goes up. Research specific things. Get educated. I could go into so many weird things that I went and researched. Did you know you could buy shipping containers? You could buy a shipping container for $300,000, and the shipping company will lease it from you for $3,000 a month. So you make 10% on your money. And then after they're done, your shipping container is worth $30,000. You could buy the shipping container. $300,000 for a fucking piece of steel.
Yeah, I'm like,
$30,000 for the shipping container, and they'll pay you $3,000 a month. So after it's paid for, I don't remember the life expectancy of it, but I understood that there is an investment tool out there that's related to shipping containers. Because I'm constantly getting educated. I'm looking for different opportunities where my money can make me more money. So you got to start with building your nest egg. Then you go and educate yourself on different investment tools that can grow that money. Okay? Now, you're still living a very capped life here. You got to add one more thing to the formula. You got to find out how to make more money. Because what we did is we just built a structure here.
Right.
That this is the box that you live in. How can we make the most of it? Okay. 1, save. 2, get educated on investments that can help grow the money that you're saving. That's generally what America does without probably realizing they're doing it. The big kicker is you got to go make more money. I wish I could have people call in or talk. I'd give them all kinds of creative shit. Give me an example.
I was just going to say, like, you choose after looking at all the investments options that you've researched, you chose housing. Why did you choose housing?
Why did I choose housing?
I mean, I kind of know why, but
that's okay. But they don't know. I chose housing because at heart, I'm an artist. I love expressing my creativity. I love walking into a space, making it better. And it's just like an artist looking at a blank canvas and putting a bunch of paint on it. And in their world, they're probably like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever done. And to somebody else, maybe like, this is terrible. But it doesn't matter. They got fulfillment out of expressing their artistic side of their being. So for me, that's a big part of it. Obviously, I make good money. Right. That's exciting. There's challenge at every turn. So why did I choose housing?
Why is it a more solid investment?
Well, I think all investments are solid if you're an expert at it.
Yeah.
Think about that.
But I'm going towards
keep digging because I want to answer your question.
Rentals. Like, why did you choose rentals ultimately?
Because it's the dumb man's game.
Well, and
there's no it's the dumb man's game.
You always need somewhere to live.
Well, if you're asking why I chose that asset class of real estate, I don't believe in retail. I think retail is dead. The pandemic has finally killed office because now everybody works at home. Yeah. So that leaves warehouse, which Amazon's going to eat up, and all the big shipping and distributing companies are going to use. So warehouse is extremely valuable, I think, and will maintain its value. And then people got to live. Yeah. That's all that's kind of left is housing. Right. But that wasn't why I bought it. But that's a good point and thing I've learned since owning it. Okay. But that wasn't what triggered me to buy it. Okay. I understand where my IQ lays in the world. And instead of being ashamed of it or having an issue with it, I just figured out how to work around it. So I just found something that's easy. I knew how to save money. Think how basic this formula is. I started with this. I knew how to save money. Then once I saved enough money, I knew that if I bought a house, somebody's got to live in it. And I just did that 27 times. Where's the formula? Yeah. You want me to get out a whiteboard and start going into fucking ROIs and all this creative shit that's going to confuse the fuck out of the audience? Right. No. I saved money. I worked hard. And when I had enough money, I bought a house. And then I put a renter inside of it. And I did that 27 times. Sorry if you guys are expecting something much bigger and more exciting.
Well, I was just going to add on it. So, sometimes it's comforting for people to keep that money in the bank instead of spending it. So they have it just in case they need it for something. But I would say that it's better to spend it so that you can make,
I
the
wouldn't
money
say
from
spend. Don't even use that word.
Not spend it, but like
invest it.
Invest it so that you make your profit per month. And at the worst, you could sell it for something if you needed it.
Absolutely. That's what I love about buying these homes cash. We've began entertaining leverage at this stage in our lives.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, what I didn't want to put $20,000 down, borrow $80,000. I'm using $100,000 purchase price, having the payment be $700 a month, and having the rent be $1,000. And with HOA taxes and all the other bullshit, I walk away with $143 a month.
Right.
I have to take this guy's phone call at midnight on Saturday because his toilet's backed up for $143 a month.
Right.
Well, now I can walk around and brag that I got 5 houses. Yeah, but you're only making $700 between the 5 of them. Mm-hmm. I'd rather have one asset that I own cash that always cash flows, period. Because what can end up happening with rentals is you'll hate it. The worst thing that you can have happen with a piece of real estate is you end up hating it. How do you end up hating a piece of real estate? Well, allow me to explain because I've been there. You bought it for $300,000. The rents were $1,800 a month. Your payment was $1,500. You were making $300 a month on your $30,000 down payment because you only put down 10%. You're making 10%. Life's good, right? $300 on your $30,000. All hypothetical figures here. All of a sudden, the market shifts. Yeesh.
Yeah.
Now it's worth $250. Well, the neighbor just bought theirs for $250, and they want to rent it out. Well, they don't have to ask $1,800 because they bought it for $250.
Right.
They can ask $1,500. So they put it up for $1,500. My neighbor goes, shit, or my tenant goes, shit, the house next door is $1,500 a month. So he calls me and goes, hey, Josh, I could either stay here, but I need you to reduce my rent, or I'll just start moving next door. So either way, I take the $1,500. So he either moves next door and sets the new market at $1,500. Then my new tenant comes in and I only get $1,500, or I have to reduce the rent to $1,500. Okay. Now I'm breaking even. Well, let's say the house down the road goes for $230 and that whole thing happens again.
Right.
And now the rents go to $1,200. Now I'm going backwards. Now I'm writing a check to own this property.
Yeah.
I hate this property. Now I'm having a mental fuck every day. Do I want to own this? Do I want to keep this? Every month I got to have that battle with myself. Oh my God, another repair. Now it's $800 I got to go backwards on this. Honey, I don't know if I want to keep this thing. I don't know. Do I keep it or do I keep my credit good? Do I keep it or do I keep my credit good? You see that mind fuck?
Yeah.
That happens. Markets are called markets because they go up and down. It happens. So do you really want to end up hating a property? Do you really want to get wiped out? One 15% price correction in Las Vegas for all these people that have leveraged properties, it could literally wipe them out unless they are extremely mentally tough and have a ton of cash to go backwards on those properties for a very long time. When you buy the house cash, even if you bought it for $100, if it goes down 30%, that's a strong decrease. You have a $70,000 asset that you could sell.
Right. And you're not going backwards.
You're not going backwards. You're still going forward. You're still in love with the property. Okay. So here, sweetie, so there was one more question. Why don't you ask it really quick? I know we had a little timeline here, or not a timeline.
Well, yeah, that was just a lot of information. But so, obviously you've built like our portfolio by combining flips and buying rentals. So what is a recommended mix, or how would you suggest that they should do that if they...
So this goes more into you've got to get your income up. And the way to get your income up is to, in my business, that's all I'm going to go into because I don't know how to reference other people's. But so I'm in the business of buying undervalued real estate. So I am buying product at a discount. The great news is that my product is very expensive. Imagine if we were in the bottled water business and I had to buy product at a discount. Even if I get it for 5 cents and sell it for 10, I make 5 cents.
Right.
The good news is that I'm in the business of buying product at a discount, but it's a very expensive product. So the first thing that I would learn to do is identify distressed sellers. And And distress means that there's a pain point somewhere. They need to relocate, inherited a house, divorce, behind on payments, job loss. There's a pain point somewhere. When you identify those people, you provide a service to that person by allowing them to get out of their property. And generally, at the moment and at the time, it's probably worth what you're offering. But there's an opportunity for you to add value in the form of an improvement and then be rewarded for it, AKA profit, AKA house flipping.
Right.
But the first things first is I would identify those types of sellers. Educate yourself on how to tie up a piece of property where you have the right to assign your rights in the contract. This is for the guys that have no money. Identify sellers with a pain point. Educate yourself on contracts. Make sure you have the right to assign your rights in the contract when you tie up a property. If you get the property at a steep enough discount, you will be able to assign your rights in exchange for a fee. I can tell you right now, if I lost everything right now, what I'm describing is exactly what I would start doing. So I'll always be able to bounce back. If you can sell your rights in that contract in exchange for a fee, let's call it $10,000. If you do that 10 times, you'll generate $100,000. In a 12-month period, you should easily be able to identify 10 distressed sellers where you can get a property that you can sell your rights in. That means you have to put up no money. You're just selling the rights to the contract that you've put together in exchange for a fee. That'll give you $100,000. If you have $100,000, now you can continue to identify those distressed properties based on pain points, and you could start closing and buying those properties, which means that you don't have to leave any meat on the table for the next guy. You could take it from the drop bottom price and see it all the way through to the maximum value. So now your income starts compounding. All of a sudden you're making $50,000 a house instead of 10. Okay. You do that 10 times in a year. Now you made $500,000. What do you do with that $500,000? You go buy rentals.
I was like, you go invest.
You save $100 so you can maintain your flipping business, and you invest the other $400,000 into rentals. Now, here's the crazy thing that people don't, where the struggle will come from when you start buying rentals. People are going to say, I never want to exchange $400,000 in exchange for $4,000. And I agree. In the beginning, it is painful because it's not life-changing money. $4,000 may not be life-changing money in exchange for giving up access to $400,000 in cash. But what ends up happening is whatever your bills are, let's call it $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month. When you get to that point where all of your bills are paid for, you stop caring about how much money's in the bank because you don't need money in the bank to live because your bills are just automatically paid for. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So now all of a sudden you become a lot looser and it's a lot easier to go and buy rentals. You're like, I don't care how much money I have. If anything, I want less money in the bank and I want more cash flow. So it starts to reverse, but you got to fight through that first few rental properties that are like just sending in a few $1,000 that aren't really life-changing money. The other thing is you make all of your money on the buy. Never, ever, ever, ever buy a property as an investment, a long-term hold investment, actually any property period, at market value, ever.
Right.
The transaction costs alone immediately make it so you're upside down.
Yeah.
If you buy a $300,000 house and that was market value today, if you wanted to sell that house today,
you'd have to sell it for more to get your money back.
You have to sell it for more because you have to pay 6% in commissions, 2% in closing costs, plus the holding expenses. You got to literally sell it for $330 just to break even. So never pay market value, ever. People go, how's that going to happen? Well, I guess you're going to have to listen to the next podcast to figure that out. All right, that's going to wrap it up for us. I hope that was valuable. Over and out.
Yeah.
I love you, baby.
Love you.
When you're selling a home, you want to make a great first impression, and the House of Vegas understands this. There is no better way to make that impression than with high-quality furniture that fits the house perfectly. Give my good friend Thomas at the House of Vegas a call for your home staging needs. They know time is money and will act quick. Their number is 310-503-3611. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for listening.
If you enjoyed the show, please rate, subscribe, and share our podcast. You can also connect with us on social media or at galindogrouprealestate.com.
Until next time, thanks again for listening.